All right, welcome to the first episode of Geek Time with Morgan, where we astound you with how possibly messy a garage bench can be and still somewhat be functional and actually help us move projects forward. So I'm going to talk about just various projects I have with electric bikes, batteries, electric vehicle stuff, and the first thing I want to share with you today is actually this cool device. This is the Cycle Satiator. It's a battery charger that is like super universal. It's made by these guys in Canada, Grin Technologies. And I got it actually originally so I could charge up my electric bike battery. This little 48 volt, it actually is closer to 50 some volts. And that charger can charge up the batteries at different parameters. One of the cool things it can do is if, in owning an electric vehicle, for electric cars, they always charge the batteries not all the way full. They preserve some headroom basically above the full charge mark, and that actually preserves the life of the batteries. It makes them last a lot longer to not charge them all the way to their maximum capacity, and likewise to not discharge them all the way to their minimum capacity. So one of the reasons I initially got the Cycle Satiator is because you can set up a profile so that with your electric bike battery, you can also charge it to only say 80 or 85%. If you're doing just normal trips around town and not using your whole battery anyway, why put the full voltage into it and diminish its life? So that's the original reason I got it. But the cool thing about this is it's completely programmable. I'll show you the interface on the computer. And it can go all the way, it can do nickel metal hydride, it can do lithium, various lithium chemistries, and it can even do lead acid. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. I've got this interesting little battery project. Okay, so I've got actually several battery projects. So these three guys here are 6-volt lead acid batteries, and they are golf cart batteries that I was using in my RV. There were actually 4 of them wired in what's called series parallel, so it was a 12-volt configuration. And it had a lot of amp hours to run the trailer if we were off-grid, let's say, for a week. But then something bad happened. We winterized the trailer and we forgot to disconnect the batteries. And there are some small loads in the trailer, including the solar controller, that were sitting there continuing to suck juice out of these poor batteries. And so they got to the point where they were completely at literally like 0 volts when we discovered this, and plugged them back in. And that's a pretty bad thing to do to any battery. Lead acid batteries are maybe slightly more tolerant of it than lithium. If you do that to lithium, you're done, you're toast. But with lead acid, maybe they're recoverable. So what I'm gonna do today is actually use that cool Cycle Satiator charger to charge up these big batteries, and it's pretty cool to be able to do that. It can't actually go down to 6 volts, but it can do a 12-volt battery. So I'm going to wire 2 in series and see what happens when I charge these up a bit. Okay, what I've got going on over here is ring terminals on one end of this wire, and the ring terminals are so I can connect to the batteries at one end. And then at the other end of this wire, I'm going to use these Anderson power poles. And they look like these little red and black connectors like this. And this Cycle Satiator can go up to 8 amps, so it'll take it a couple days to charge those batteries fully, but that's fine at this point. I don't mind a slow trickle charge just to see if I can recover them. And then the normal Cycle Satiator comes with this XLR plug, which fits in a lot of electric bike batteries. But the cool thing is you can also order different adapters, such as an Anderson adapter like that one. And you might wonder what this other plug is. This is actually the serial port connection for the Cycle Satiator. So when we connect it up to the computer and program the charging profile, that I have a special plug that goes to a USB and goes to some software on my computer. Let's get this done and then see how it all works. Okay, now we've got the 2 Andersons completed. Whoa, uh-oh. And they are snapped together. Now, it's kind of a fragile connection between the two. They slide. against one another, and if I twist this at all, they'll slide apart. So there's a little connection pin that you can put in here, or the other thing that I've found that works is just to put a narrow zip tie around and hold them in position together. So it's pretty awesome. So this part is about ready to go. I've got the batteries wired up and ready to plug into the Cycle Analyst. So let's look at this wiring real quick. This is what is called series wiring. That's something that my physics degree did actually come in handy for, is to learn the difference between series and parallel and stuff like that. We have the positive of our connector to the Cycle Analyst going to this battery, and the negative going to this battery. So that's the positive and the negative of those two. Now, then the question is what to do with these other two. Well, this is where we make the series connection, where we connect the negative to the positive. And that makes these two in series. It's almost like they're pushing together to create more voltage. Each one would create 6 volts, but they push together and they can create, it's a little bit over 12 volts if we can actually restore these batteries to any kind of functional condition. Next step is to look at the programming of the Cycle Satiator. They have another product called Cycle Analyst. So we're going to go to the computer, program that, set up the voltage profile for the charging, and then plug it in and see if nothing blows up, hopefully. Thought I'd give you a quick look at this setup, the mechanics of it, and then we'll hop onto the desktop of the computer. So here is the Cycle Satiator, and it's got its plug, and here's the serial plug, and then that serial plug is running over here across my equally messy desktop. Actually, this isn't as bad as a workbench, but into a USB port of my little docking station here. And then we go onto the screen. All right, so what we're going to be doing is using the software from Grin that goes with their Cycle Satiator. It's at ebikes.ca. Pretty awesome website. Lots of cool stuff for more technically inclined people. So we go under under Learn, and we go down here to the product info, the actual correct menu, Cycle Satiator. Yay. Okay, so here's the page for the Cycle Satiator. And if we scroll down on this page, it has some instructions and some info about the Cycle Satiator. And it shows a list of all the plugs, the compatible plugs that you can buy for it. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, but down here in this center section under Downloads, there are drivers and software. So since I'm on a Mac, downloaded the Satiator suite for the Mac. And I also downloaded the driver and installed the driver. And if you are on a Mac, because of the security protection, you actually have to go into the system settings and actually allow the Mac to use this driver. It tries to install what's called a kernel extension. And because of security concerns, kernel extensions can do malfeasance if they're from somebody bad. And so anyway, it wants you to approve the actual installation and use of that. So once you've got that installed, you have to reboot the machine, and then voila, you have the software. And it comes out looking like this. Not a fancy icon or anything like that, but hey, I'm just happy they even have a Mac version. That's pretty awesome. So we fire this one up, the Satiator software suite. And here we go with the Satiator software suite. Now, the next thing we're going to have to do is actually get the Satiator to into the computer mode. But what we have to do is actually put the Satiator into the computer mode, the connect to computer mode. So I'm holding both buttons down. I'm having trouble. Okay, enter setup. Okay, and then boom, boom, connect to PC, hold down the bottom button. Okay, ready for PC connection. So let's go back to the screen. And here on the screen, we hit connect. We have to find the right device. A new serial device should show up when this is plugged in and available. And connect. Awesome. So here I have, I'm not going to go over this too much because they have tutorials on their website more about this, but basically these are profiles for different kinds of battery charges that you might want to have. Now, I already have a lead acid one that I did before, but I want to do a new one just to show you. New profile. Yay. Okay. So then we start out which type of battery chemistry. We're going to do lead. Okay. Golf cart 2 series. Uh-oh. Not quite enough characters. I'll do golf cart 2S. So that means it's 2 in series. It's 2 in series. Okay, so full voltage, we do not want 43.2 volts. The full voltage when we are in what's called absorption mode. So lead acid batteries, you typically go through a couple phases. You go up to this peak voltage, which is called your absorbed voltage, and you only want to hold it there for a few hours, where you actually get the plates to let go of all the sulfates or whatever is going on in there. I'm not a chemistry person that much. And so the high absorption voltage for this particular battery is absorption voltage. I'm looking on my little table, 15.3 absorbed voltage. And the amps, I want a full 8 amps because this is a big pack and it's going to take a while. Okay, so I hit finish. Now, what it's going to do is it automatically sets up these other choices for me about what my float voltage is and what my charge current is and all of that stuff. So if I read this right, my absorbed voltage is 15.3, but my float voltage is 13.4. So see, on these batteries, I want to actually override these defaults that this set. My float voltage should actually be down at 13.4, which is a pretty low float voltage, but no, come on. It won't let me go to 13.4, so maybe it's a minimum of 13.8 float voltage. So that's a little bit high for these batteries, so I'm not going to want to leave the charger on the batteries for a long time. And charge complete current. Okay, let's put a couple amps in. Well, that's a lot. We'll just do 1 amp, which is still a little bit much. So what the hell? Okay, time at full voltage. So this is how long it operates at this 15.3 volt. And for these batteries, it's recommended 2 to 4 hours. So anyway, once we're done setting these things, edit profile, boom. Now we have our new profile, and we're going to want to set that to be active, and then move this up, move up with the move up button, so it actually shows up in our menu in the list of profiles available to us. The things that aren't active, they don't show up. And so let's actually write the data to the machine. Okay, save data. So it's pretty easy to use. It doesn't require too much geekery to set up. So anyway. Okay, step number last is, well, we could just go ahead and set the profile on the Cycle Analyst and plug these in, but I'm paranoid of stuff blowing up in my face. I hate it when that happens. So I'm going to start by setting the profile here. Whoops. Okay, so since it's not the default profile, normally my default profile is for my bike battery, we have to switch the profile and find the sealed lead acid 14.5 volt. So let's activate that, hold for start. We should read some voltage on this, although it actually doesn't start sometimes until it detects the battery. So we may not get much, but we'll see at least it's positive voltage. So the red is positive, the black is negative, and this reads an actual positive voltage. So that's good. So we've got positive on red and black. Let's just make sure that I wired this correctly over here so that my positive and negative aren't by some means messed up. So we've got 11.2 volts. I charged the batteries a little bit with the car jump start before. All right, awesome. So now we are ready to try this wonderful connection, red to red, black to black. Woo! All right, so there's the screen on the Cycle Satiator. showing us that it's doing something. So it's revving up to its full amperage, 8 amps, 12.3 volts. So the only other things that I'm going to have to do now is keep an eye occasionally on the batteries, make sure they're not like boiling or off gassing or doing, any weird stuff like that. And one of the other things I'll just mention about this whole scenario is that I always like to, when I'm doing battery work, especially lithium battery work, if possible, to do this on the concrete floor here in the garage, or if it's not winter, outside, just because if anything does catch on fire, it's nice to not have it too close to other flammable stuff. All right, well, thanks for visiting Geek Time with Morgan. I'll report in the next episode how the battery charging went, since I'd like to get this out for you. And if you have questions about electrical stuff, batteries, whatever, just let me know, and I'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed the video, learned something from it, were just intrigued or whatever, share the video, give it a like, give it a thumbs up, all of that kind of stuff. That's awesome. It always helps encourage me to do more. So I will see you the next time.